The storm came first. Black Hollow had seen its fair share of storms, but this one was different. It arrived without warning, rolling in from the mountains like a living thing, snarling and snapping with forked lightning. The wind screamed through the narrow valley, bending trees and rattling windows. The sky churned, thick and black, as if the heavens themselves had split open. Sheriff Elias Grady stood at the window of the Gilded Stag Saloon, his whiskey glass untouched on the table. Outside, the town's single dirt road stretched into the darkness, lined with buildings whose wooden facades shuddered against the howling wind. The lanterns swayed on their hooks, casting wild, flickering shadows that made the town seem more ghost than place. Then, through the storm, he saw him, a lone rider, silhouetted by a bolt of lightning, emerging from the darkness. The figure moved slowly, deliberately, as if the wind and rain meant nothing to him. His long duster flapped violently, but he remained upright in the saddle, undeterred. The horse, a massive black beast, didn't hesitate, its hooves striking the mud with the certainty of something that had traveled this path before. The saloon went quiet as the sound of hooves reached them, muffled by the storm but unmistakable. Elias could feel the shift in the air, that deep, primal instinct of danger that all men carried but few heeded. The stranger rode straight for the saloon and dismounted without a word. For a moment, he stood in the rain, his hat pulled low, his face hidden in shadow. Then he stepped forward, boots sinking into the mud but never faltering. The doors creaked as he pushed them open. The moment he stepped inside, the room changed. The light from the oil lamps flickered, as if recoiling from him. The air, thick with whiskey and cigar smoke, turned cold. The gambler at the corner table stopped mid-shuffle. The bartender, a man who had seen more than his share of outlaws, tightened his grip on the bottle he was polishing. Elias remained still as the stranger's gaze swept the room. Then their eyes met. A slow, knowing smile crept across the stranger's face, the kind of smile that sent a man's soul tumbling into memories best left buried.
"You don't remember me,"
the man said, his voice quiet but heavy, like the weight of an oncoming avalanche. A trickle of ice ran down Elias's spine.
"But you will."
Another bolt of lightning split the sky, illuminating the room in a blinding flash. Then, as suddenly as it had come, the storm outside died into silence. The only sound left was the stranger's boots as he walked past Elias and settled into the darkest corner of the saloon, waiting. Elias swallowed hard. Some debts, he knew, never stayed buried. And Black Hollow was about to remember that truth the hard way. By morning, the storm had passed, but Black Hollow was left with an unnatural stillness, as if the town itself was holding its breath. The usual sounds of morning, horses snorting, merchants setting up their stalls, the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, felt muted, subdued. Sheriff Elias Grady hadn't slept. He had sat awake in his office, staring at the walls, trying to push the stranger's words from his mind.
"You don't remember me, but you will."
But Elias did remember. Not fully. Not yet. But the way the man had looked at him, like he already knew the nightmare that would unfold, sent Elias digging through memories he had long since buried. When the first townsfolk saw the stranger again, he was outside the church, standing alone on the hill just beyond the graveyard. He had set up no proper camp. Only a fire smoldered at his feet, and beside it, a single iron spade was plunged into the earth. He hadn't spoken to anyone, hadn't asked for food or shelter, hadn't even acknowledged the people who passed by, their whispers carried on the morning breeze. It was as if he was waiting. Elias rode out to meet him just before noon, the weight of his revolver pressing against his hip. He found the stranger leaning against a crooked wooden fence post, looking down over the town like a judge preparing his verdict.
"You've got everyone spooked,"
Elias said, stopping a few feet away.
"and I don't take kindly to troublemakers."
The stranger didn't turn to face him.
"Troublemaker."
A slow, amused breath escaped his lips.
"You think that's what I am?"
Elias tightened his jaw.
"I don't know what you are."
At this, the man finally turned. His face was clearer in the daylight, weathered and scarred, but something about his eyes made Elias's stomach twist. They were wrong. Not dead, not empty, but full of something deeper. Something hungry.
You still don't remember.
The man said, his voice even steady.
But you will.
Elias clenched his fists.
You keep saying that, but I don't.
I've already sent you a reminder.
The stranger interrupted. Elias frowned.
What?
The man just smiled. Unease crawled down Elias's spine as he turned his horse and rode back toward town. The people in the streets had already caught wind of his meeting with the stranger. He could feel their eyes on him, waiting, wondering. He stepped into his office, meaning to pour himself a drink, when he saw it. A letter. A single, yellowed envelope had been slipped beneath his door. Elias bent down and picked it up. The paper felt old, the edges frayed, as if it had been waiting for years to be delivered. With careful hands, he peeled the envelope open and unfolded the letter inside. The ink was faded, the words scrawled in a familiar hand.
I have come to settle the debt. Meet me where it began.
The breath rushed from Elias's lungs. His vision swam. There was only one place those words could mean. The abandoned mine at Devil's Ridge. The place where his past had been buried. The place where, 20 years ago, he and 3 others had sworn never to return. The place where they had left a man to die. Elias's grip on the letter tightened. His heart pounded in his chest. He could still see the dust rising from the collapsed tunnel, hear the muffled screams beneath the rocks. The taste of fear and greed had been thick in the air that night.
No, it couldn't be. That man had died. Hadn't he?
The wind howled through Devil's Ridge as Elias rode up the winding trail, his horse's hooves kicking up dust along the narrow path. The sky had begun to darken, thick clouds rolling in from the west, as if the storm from days before had returned to witness what was about to unfold. The letter weighed heavy in his coat pocket, but the past weighed heavier.
I have come to settle the debt. Meet me where it began.
Elias had been sheriff of Black Hollow for nearly 2 decades, but nothing in those years, not the outlaws, not the bloodshed, not the hangings at dawn, had filled him with the same dread that twisted in his gut now. Because he knew, deep down, that this wasn't just about justice. This was judgment. And he was the one standing at the gallows. By the time he reached the mouth of the old mine, the last light of the sun had nearly vanished, leaving only a sliver of dying orange on the horizon. The place was exactly as he remembered it. Jagged cliffs, dry and lifeless, the remnants of an abandoned mining operation left to rot beneath the weight of time. The wooden entrance of the mine was half collapsed, its beams blackened with age. And there, standing before it, was the stranger. Thomas Beckett. Alive. Or something close to it. His silhouette was motionless against the gloom, his duster hanging loose around him like a burial shroud. He did not turn at Elias's approach. Elias dismounted, his boots crunching on the gravel. His breath came slow, measured.
I don't know how you survived,
he said finally. His voice was hoarse, laced with something between fear and guilt.
but if you came here to kill me, just get it done.
Beckett chuckled. A dry, hollow sound.
Kill you.
He turned at last, stepping into the fading light, and Elias felt his stomach drop. The years had changed Beckett into something unnatural. His skin, once bronzed by the sun, was now pale, stretched too tight over his cheekbones. Scars ran down the side of his face like cracks in broken porcelain. And his eyes, God help him, his eyes, held no color, only darkness, deep and endless.
Death would be a mercy, Elias.
Beckett said softly.
And mercy is something you never gave me.
Elias swallowed hard.
We thought you were dead.
No.
Beckett murmured.
You hoped I was.
The wind screamed through the canyon, kicking up dust as Beckett took another step forward.
I waited, Elias.
He continued, voice like a distant echo in a cavern.
Buried beneath the rock, choking on dust. I clawed my way through the dark, my fingers broken, my breath fading.
His lip curled into something that might have been a smile.
And I listened.
Elias felt his body tense, but he said nothing.
I heard the mind whisper to me.
Beckett went on.
It told me the truth, that you, Silas, Hank, and Jesse had chosen to leave me behind. That you had traded my life for gold that turned to dust in your hands.
He tilted his head, his empty eyes narrowing.
Did it ever make you rich, Elias? That gold.
Elias's throat tightened.
No.
Of course not.
Beckett's voice was almost pitying.
Because the debt was never settled, and the past doesn't forget.
A sudden gust of wind rattled the mine's entrance, and Elias felt it then. A shift in the air, an invisible force pressing against him like unseen hands. Something else was here. The ground trembled beneath them. The old wooden beams groaned. The shadows stretched and twisted. The mine was waking up. Beckett lifted his hand, and Elias's heart pounded as he realized what he was holding. A pickaxe. Rusted, ancient. The same one Elias had held all those years ago, the same one that had helped collapse the tunnel over Beckett's body.
I didn't come here to kill you, Elias.
Beckett whispered.
I came to bury you.
The earth split. The ground beneath Elias's feet buckled, and before he could move, before he could run, the world gave way. He fell, plunging into the black, into the dust, into the gaping mouth of the mine, and then the dark swallowed him whole. Elias hit the ground hard. The air was ripped from his lungs as he tumbled down into the abyss, swallowed by the very thing he had once tried to bury. Dust and debris rained down, choking him, blinding him. The world above, the sky, the dying light, the safety of the surface, was gone. For a long moment, he lay there, ears ringing, heart hammering against his ribs. The ground beneath him was damp and cold, the air thick with the scent of rot and old blood. Then he heard it. A voice. Low, hollow, crawling up the walls like whispers from the grave.
Welcome back, Elias.
The voice was everywhere. In the walls, in the stone, in the bones of the earth itself. Elias struggled to his feet, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He was in a chamber, deep within the collapsed tunnels of the mine. The walls pulsed like something alive, veins of black rock twisting through them like the tendrils of a great beast. And standing in the center, illuminated by an eerie, flickering glow, was Thomas Beckett. No longer just a man. Something more. Something less. His flesh was stretched thin, the wounds from years ago still raw and open, refusing to heal. His eyes, those hollow, bottomless pits, reflected no light. He stood perfectly still, his fingers tightening around the rusted pickaxe in his hand.
I waited for you.
Beckett murmured.
For all of you.
His voice was calm, almost reverent.
But the others never came. Just you, Elias.
Elias's breath came sharp. The others? Silas, Hank, Jesse. They had scattered after that night, all going their separate ways. But one by one, they had died over the years. Unnatural deaths. Violent ones. A gunshot through the back. A hanging tree with no witnesses. A fire that had taken everything. He had thought it was coincidence. Now he knew better.
You killed them.
Elias whispered. Beckett smiled.
I collected.
The shadows around them moved. The walls shuddered. And from the darkness behind Beckett, something rose. Figures. Their faces were twisted, half-rotted, barely human. Yet Elias knew them. Silas, Hank, Jesse. Their mouths opened in soundless screams, their hands clawing toward him, their eyes filled with eternal, unspeakable agony. Elias staggered back.
No, you're dead.
And so are you.
Beckett swung the pickaxe. Elias barely moved in time, the blade carving through the air, inches from his skull. He scrambled back, his boots slipping on the loose dirt, his hands searching for his gun. It was gone. Lost in the fall. Beckett advanced, slow, deliberate. His voice was nothing but a whisper of wind through the graveyard.
You think I came back for revenge?
He said, tilting his head.
No, Elias. Revenge is fleeting. Justice is eternal.
The walls groaned. The ground trembled beneath them, the mine closing in, as if the earth itself was Beckett's executioner. Elias turned, desperate, his hands finding a rusted shovel against the cavern wall. He swung it blindly. It struck Beckett's shoulder, sending him stumbling. For the first time, Elias saw it doubt. A flicker of hesitation. A break in the darkness that consumed him. He can be hurt. Fueled by nothing but raw survival, Elias lunged. He tackled Beckett, driving them both to the ground. Dust exploded around them as they grappled, rolling dangerously close to a deep, black chasm at the heart of the cavern. Beckett's fingers tightened around Elias's throat. The world blurred. Darkness crowded his vision. Then a rock. Elias's hand found a jagged stone. With the last of his strength, he drove it into Beckett's ribs. A scream tore through the chamber, raw and inhuman. Beckett lurched backward, his body writhing, shifting, and then the floor beneath him gave way. For a single, frozen moment, Elias saw Beckett's face, twisted in something between rage and relief. Then he fell, plunging into the chasm below, his body vanishing into the endless dark. The mine roared. The walls buckled. Elias turned and ran. The tunnel collapsed behind him, dust choking the air, stone falling in a relentless, deafening cascade. He pushed forward, lungs burning, vision swimming, and then light. A crack in the rock. A way out. Elias lunged through just as the mine collapsed completely behind him, sealing Beckett's tomb once and for all. The morning sun burned red over Black Hollow as Elias rode back into town. He was covered in dust, his clothes torn, his hands shaking. The people stared, whispering. He didn't stop, didn't speak. He just kept riding. Because Devil's Ridge was behind him now. And so was Thomas Beckett. At least, that's what he told himself. But as the wind howled through the valley, carrying whispers that only he could hear, Elias knew better. Some debts were never truly settled, and the past never stayed buried. Never stayed buried.